Good afternoon, my name is Laura Baldwin. I'm one of your live streaming hosts this afternoon here at Extinction Rebellion's April Rebellion. I'm hoping to be able to capture some of the excitement and energy here today so you can experience it back at home. And I'm really excited that I bumped into this chap along my way, George, who is a phenomenal powerhouse of knowledge about the crisis and all the recent happenings. And I wonder if you could tell us, George, why you're here and the latest research.
So I don't know anyone that hasn't seen Don't Look Up. Just watch Don't Look Up, because we really are at that moment where all the world's scientists, signed off by every single government in the world, are basically saying delay equals death. We are out of time. It's now or never. The report last month said we have a brief and rapidly closing window on a livable future for all. That was the head of the UN. The most senior diplomat on the planet. Diplomats not famous for kind of telling it very clearly, and that really is where we're at. Like, quite simply, we have optimistically, I would say, a carbon budget of maybe 300 gigatons for 1.5, if we have any carbon budget at all. The UK government commissioned a report from the International Energy Agency as the president of COP last year to inform the negotiations as to what needs to be agreed. They said categorically we can have no new fossil fuels. And they said also, very encouragingly, we have plenty of fossil fuels already in operation to get us through the transition to green. And meanwhile, Boris Johnson is asking for a climate pass, as if physics negotiates. Where is he expecting the physics to say, oh, sorry, we'll stop the laws of science for the next 6 months because you have some inconvenient situation where you want to give more money to fossil fuel companies? And I say give more money. Many people might not realise this. We have been subsidising BP and Shell for the last 3 years in the North Sea. Literally, they've been paying minus tax. Minus tax. It is extraordinary, the world we live in. And the reason things like this are so important is that it's not that the truth isn't out there, or that the solutions to change this are out there. The problem is that people are just not hearing it, basically because of the media. We have this almost obscene phrase, the free press, which we supposedly have in this country, which basically equates to 4 right-wing billionaires dominating what people hear. So this very, very clear situation in which we need to transform everything. To quote the 2018 IPCC report, they say we need rapid, far-reaching, unprecedented changes to every aspect of society, which means we need to green the farming system, we need to green the transport system, we need to green the construction, etc. And it's all available, and we're not doing it. And literally, a livable future for all depends on it. And we are here, basically, ordinary people from all walks of life, trying to be the voice of sanity. And I think the really inspiring thing is that 0.something% of people so far acting as part of Extinction Rebellion have already had a massive global impact on the story. It's really important to remember that 4 years ago, climate change was still being talked about, some distant problem for our grandchildren. Now everyone in the world is speaking the language of climate emergency. All the politicians are recognising it rhetorically. But that is all, as Greta so eloquently put it, it is all blah blah blah, unless that actually equates to stopping digging the fossil fuels out of the ground and transforming the way we use land, which at the moment is utter madness in terms of deforestation, this crazy farming system that destroys the soils and sucks the carbon out of it. It is bonkers what we're doing, and unfortunately very powerful vested interests that dominate politics are responsible for this utter madness. And it's omnicidal madness. Now, with the gas price, by far the cheapest way to produce energy in the UK is onshore wind and solar. And there's been no support for it. And quite the opposite. In 2016, I think it was 2016, the government basically just destroyed all the support there was for wind and solar. Tens of thousands of people lost their jobs, and the rate of installation just dropped off a cliff. Similarly, they had a vaguely functional home insulation program from 2010 to 2012. A couple of million people insulated their houses, and they took away the functioning policy, and insulation dropped by 97%. And as Insulate Britain, for all their unpopularity, have made very clear to people, by far the cheapest, most effective way to reduce our emissions, climate-wise, is to insulate the houses. Because obviously, if you stop the heat that you're pumping into your house going out the window straight away, then obviously you need far less of it. There are so many. The really short version is all the solutions are there. We can have a beautiful, much fairer, nicer world to give to our children. And it's all within our grasp if we can get the corrupt vested interests out of the way of our political system.
I'm wondering if we just quick march to try and catch back up to the march. They're always so fascinating to listen to you, George, because you have an amazing mind for keeping hold of the quotes and the statistics, and you communicate it in such an eloquent and emotional way. And being a father, and now you've got your son there, is good reason for wanting to protect the planet. So I'm also a desperately protective mother, having a 9-year-old son that I've had to leave at home this weekend so that I can be up here and bring all the action to you back at home. We're going to run as fast as we can to try and catch up with the action so that we can share it with you.
Something worth adding, I think. Yeah. I find myself with having these moments all the time where we talk only about climate change, and of course the reality is it's not just the climate we're destroying; it's the oceans, the soil. There's this massive looming freshwater crisis for hundreds of millions of people. I think if we just talk about climate, it's easy for people to think, oh, we can just shift to renewables and carry on everything as before. Quite simply, we are destroying all the living systems of the planet. Basically to feed the consumption of the top 10% of the planet. This is, as some socialists on the march today were saying, the climate crisis is a war of the rich against the poor. That is the reality. But the really good news about that, just to mention one other thing from the recent report, they said demand side measures, if they're coordinated systematically by governments, could reduce our emissions by 40 to 70%. Literally we could chop half our emissions away just by being sane. Just by making things in a way that don't destroy the planet. It's all there. We just got to do it.